Yeah, in the first half, Russell Wilson did his whole. It's almost like Diet Tebow, where he looks absolutely atrocious in the first quarter and most of the first half, because he's done that for 2 straight weeks now in the 2 biggest games of his career outside of the Super Bowl last year. But he did lead him down to a touchdown drive, tied up at 14 at the half. Then get a pair of time. And then eventually Seattle gets out to a 10-point lead going into the fourth quarter. It was all Seattle in the third quarter, scoring up 10 points. And then Tom Brady does his thing. And everyone talks about the final play, and we'll touch on that here in a sec. But Tom Brady, tremendous Tom Brady, who had struggled a little bit against the Seattle defense, the whole Legion of Boom thing, puts up 2 long 60-plus yard touchdown drives in the fourth quarter. That doesn't get talked about enough.
No, it does not. I mean, it was pretty amazing. It was spectacular. And, it gets overlooked because of the curse catch, the curse. Are they cursed? K-E-R. Yeah, anyway. I thought that was kind of funny. And and then, of course, the interception. Yeah, Tom Brady was pretty Tom Brady-y the last quarter of that game. He was pretty clutch. So he did his part. And you can only imagine what was going through his mind when Curse bobbled the ball and it happened to land spectacularly right in his hands again.
Now, that especially stuck out to Vikings and Packers fans watching the game because it was almost an exact replay of the Monday Night Miracle Antonio Freeman catch, which really we call, as Vikings fans, the Chris Dishman catch because he was the guy who was supposed to be covering him. And it's so creepy because Al Michaels was doing that call too, and he called this one, so it was really kind of unworldly. But Curse makes that catch. Then Beast Mode eventually runs down to the 1-yard line. 2nd down, 1 yard to go, 26 seconds left because Belichick didn't call a timeout, which was kind of odd still. And still down 4. Seattle still has a time on their back pocket. And then instead of doing what everyone in the entire planet thought was going to happen, just running it to Beast Mode, they decided to run a little pick play and then Lockett coming underneath, and then something called Malcolm Butler out of Western Alabama or West Alabama, whatever, just comes up, makes a huge play, picks the ball up, seals the game for the Patriots, and walks off into history. It's beautiful. It's so beautiful.
It's pretty spectacular. It was pretty cool.
Because not gonna lie, I was a little grumpy that it looked like Seattle had like a 96% chance of winning because if they repeated, that would just make the bandwagon fans that much worse. Because don't get me wrong, I love the true fans. Like Dana is a tried and true dyed-in-the-wool Seahawks fan, but the nouveau fans, like post-2012, are atrocious.
Yeah. They are very annoying. They are very just demanding of perfection. And you're one of 2 teams that got to the Super Bowl, and it came down to one play that you didn't make, that your team didn't make, that you didn't. And let's be honest. If Malcolm Butler hadn't made that play on the ball, chances are Seattle would be your Super Bowl champion. Chances are one Patriots player made a spectacular play, and that's essentially why you lost. And you can question, in my opinion, you can question a call by Pete Carroll all you want. But if Malcolm Butler doesn't make that play, are we still questioning that play call? I don't know if we are.
Even if they would have scored, I've been asking myself too, I still would have thought like, ooh.
Right.
You're gambling there. You played with fire and you won.
Right. I mean, if you win that gamble, it's a gamble. I don't think the criticism that has been lobbied at Pete Carroll is necessarily in this instance fair. Of course, if it feels like, you should run it with beast mode. That's what's proven. That's what's, expected. And he didn't. And he took a gamble. And it is what sometimes you lose. And unfortunately, he lost in the worst possible spot. But I don't know. I'm not crucifying the man over it anymore. I wondered, and I put it out there, I wondered publicly. But now the more in retrospect you think about it, the initial reaction's over. There's a record of Marshawn Lynch not scoring in that situation. I think he's done it like 1 out of 6 times throughout the season. You kind of have to look at all those things in a bigger picture as opposed to the immediate reaction.
Armchair coordinator or head coach thing I will say is that from the sounds of the interviews of Malcolm Butler afterwards, he was saying that the DB coach and Belichick specifically, coached them on that exact play. Like they practiced against that specific play. So it's something that has obviously been on tape. One of their tendencies, something they've gone to a lot. And Belichick got his guys prepared for that specific situation, that specific play. They got it down cold, and it just absolutely worked. So the only criticism I would have is if you are going to throw it, you can't go to a tendency that you've put out there many times before, because a guy like Belichick and his staff, they're not going to miss that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, they're two very intelligent guys playing each other. It seems that Belichick outsmarted Pete Carroll in this instance, but if you watch the whole entire game in the broader context of what happened throughout the game, there was a pretty big battle of wits going on, and Belichick just came out on top at the right time.
Also, Bevel. My God. Own it. See, Pete Carroll did the 100% right thing. Whether it's his call or not, I think it was. He completely fell on the sword, took all the blame. That's what leaders do. Bevel, kind of passing shade off the Lockett about saying he didn't go for the ball hard enough. You can't do that, especially in that spot. Maybe in a quiet time, maybe in a meeting or one-on-one, you tell Lockett, hey, you just go after the little harder. You can't put that out in the media like that, because that is such a terrible look. And I've been one that's actually been campaigning for Bevel to get a head job. I really liked him when he was offense coordinator here in Minnesota. But, man, how are you going to explain that in an interview to ownership, to GMs? Like, in the biggest spot of your career, you threw your guy, your player, underneath the bus. Explain that.
Right. I mean, I don't have any good explanation as to how he can get away with what he said. So it kind of makes you question not his character. It makes you question what he said and his perspective on things as a leader.
All right, but a real leader, Bill Belichick, Deflategate, all that other stuff seems to be dissipating, as now there are reports that it might have been a tick underneath, not the 2 pounds as widely reported, but I don't really care. I guess we'll see. But Belichick, 15 years in New England, 6 Super Bowl appearances, 4 rings, which is disgusting.
It's really ridiculous. I mean, the success that man has really created in Buffalo, in New England. I don't know where Buffalo came from. Sorry. In New England. Because you go back and look, and they weren't anything before Belichick came along. They were miserable.
Yeah, they were terrible.
Essentially. And he turned that organization around. He masterminded a coup of the AFC, and he has basically run that entire conference since he became the head coach of that team. Well, and even if they don't make the Super Bowl, every year they're projected to make the Super Bowl, and they have a shot every year of getting there.
Well, going through the Patriots timeline, they made the Super Bowl in '85 and then got shellacked by the Bears. The head coach at the time was Ron Meyer, the former SMU coach. Then they were really terrible for a long time. And then Parcells got him to the Super Bowl in '96, and then it went over to Pete Carroll, who was actually not bad as a Patriots coach. But then Belichick just completely took him to the next level. And the thing about Belichick, people write off his Cleveland years as a failure, but he actually did okay, especially in the circumstances when Cleveland was about ready to move to Baltimore and people were rioting. That was a bad deal. And he went back under Parcells for a little bit, finally got a shot here. And the thing that really makes me vomit, beyond the Super Bowls, beyond the division titles, beyond anything like that, is this little anecdote. So his first year in New England was 2000, 5-11 in the first year. That happens, right? His worst record since then is 9-7 in 2002. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, right. I mean, honestly, they're always in the hunt, and you can never rule them out as long as that guy's in charge.
You know how many fan bases would kill for a 9-7 and then have 9-7 be your worst record in 15 years? Come on.
It's outstanding. It really is. So, I don't know. Kudos to him and his mysterious semi-cheaty ways and getting away with it, and his crazy brain that makes things happen, because he's pretty amazing.
Speaking of crazy brain, before we wrap up the first segment, so all the Patriots Super Bowl winning and partying stories are fun. Gronk is obviously going. I don't think Gronk's going to put a shirt on until training camp, which is.
I love him.
I do too, because he's just this big, fun goofball. Like he doesn't get arrested. He doesn't get DUIs. He doesn't hit women while he's out drinking. He's just fun. Well, I guess that we know of.
Right, that we know of. But he seems very innocuous, very, yeah. He's here to have a good time, and that's about it.
He's like a 6'6", 260-pound drunk 12-year-old.
Yeah, he really is. And we talked about that E60 on him. I mean, he's apparently always been that way, and he's never changed.
His family seems fun. I don't know if I could hang with him, though.
Oh, God, no. He would drive me crazy. Quit doing stupid crap, Gronk. You're going to get in trouble. I don't know how he avoids it all this time, but he manages to stay out of trouble at least, so good for him. Good for Gronk.
But also a great story that came out of the Patriots celebration is Edelman and Tinder. So there's this girl who, her name is Sabrina. Yeah, her full name is out on numerous websites, which I find a little scummy, but that's another argument for another day. So she and Edelman apparently had an evening, and then she took a quick selfie of her and Edelman when Edelman was passed out in the bed, and put it on Tinder with the caption, "I just, Edelman." Mm-hmm. No lie. And that went viral, and she received a lot of flack on the various social media websites, and the girl has since gone into hiding, deleting her Facebook and Twitter account, and some of these gotcha journalism, you can't even call it journalism, websites have posted the girl's full name and even went as far as stalking pictures of her MySpace and putting them online. And some Boston nightclub promoter has declared basically a fatwa on her, banning her from all Boston area nightclubs. Now, I got to ask you this two-part question. So is what she did okay on the level? And part two, is this public shaming fair or foul?
It's disgusting. I mean, look, I feel like we've seen a lot less of this than I would expect from society. Mm-hmm. You would expect more people who hook up with random famous people would brag about it on social media. Maybe the opportunities aren't there as much. I don't know. But this did happen with Justin Bieber with some chick in Colombia or something, I remember a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And I think it's happened with a few others, but not that much. And it's surprising it doesn't happen more, but the fact that it is happening is disgusting. It's disgusting. Let's also be honest. I think from all indications of what I've researched, Edelman does seem to have a girlfriend, not a wife, but a girlfriend. So, yeah. And she's a model, of course. And she's attractive, but in that generic way, that, I don't know, just that generic model-y way.
Throwing shade to generic models. Yeah, Claire. Just let it all hang up.
Yeah, well, and people who are famous because of how they look get on my nerves. I prefer people who have a little bit of personality. Anyway.
So you have a big problem with Elephant Man.
Is Elephant Man intelligent or witty, or does he offer something to society other than being an oddity to look at?
I don't know. I think he died in the 20s. Oh, she's pretty. Julian Edelman's girlfriend, Olivia Fisher.
Yeah, she's all right. Anyway, so she apparently got cheated on in this situation. So you wonder about how that personally affects his life. And then it's publicly shaming, yes. And then the fact that she got called out by all these other people, and it's one of those angry retribution-y sort of things, the fly off the handle, let it sink in and give it a little bit of time before you react to it, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, she did kind of a deplorable thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I personally wouldn't do it, but I'm not going to knock other people for doing it. I mean, if someone did that to, I don't know, a J.J. Watt or whatever, a player, who I'd probably let it go, but secretly or quietly just despise the person who did it. That's all.
That's fair. Now, I'm looking up all this Edelman stuff. Apparently, he was arrested in 2011 for groping a woman on Halloween.